Hi guys, welcome to this episode of Qi Gong. I have to do it outside because I'm out of town today. So let's get started. First question is from Cult of Camero Mac. All right, Adam, Sifu, throughout your content, you use the word Qi Gong. Could you also say that you teach practices that are technically Loi Gong and San Gong in Cantonese? Does your knowledge in Heaven Mountain also include Loi Dan or internal alchemy? Thank you. Thank you for the question. That's a good question. If you look at Zhou Dynasty, original Taoism, it's basically sitting practices, right? And then later in the one dynasty after, the Qin Dynasty, they added non-doing standing practice, which is really for your physical energy boost. After that, in the Han Dynasty, it changed from non-doing practices to doing practices, which is a lot of techniques, a lot of stages, a lot of methods to merge. And those were called Loi Dan, what you're asking about, which is internal alchemy. So originally, the sitting practices is really for spirituality, and the original name for it was called Dou Sut. Dou means the Tao, and Sut means the art or the skill. And another name for it was Zhou Mong, which means to sit and to forget. Another name for it was Sao Yat, which means to guard the one. And the last name for it was from, actually not last, but another common name at that period in history in Zhou Dynasty was from Lao Tzu called Po Yat, which means to embrace the one. All of it basically signify you go from matter, form, or ice, melting into the ocean or the Tao, or the formless, or the energy behind matter called the one, or the Tao, or the Wu Qi, or emptiness, or light. Or in quantum physics, they call it the unknown energy, or zero-point energy, or dark energy. In Buddhism, they'll call it emptiness, or Buddha nature. In Hinduism, they'll call it Brahman and Atman. So, in Christian mystics, they call it Christ consciousness. So it really depends on the tradition you're from, but it's saying the same thing. What's behind matter is form, and it goes from ice to ocean. The process of doing that is either the shamanistic path, using rituals and psychedelics, or the mystic path, using prayer or meditation. And in the mystic path is usually the non-doing tradition, where there's no technique, no method, no stages. You directly melt and directly merge into the Tao. In the doing tradition, where you have to do a bunch of stuff and learn a bunch of techniques and learn a bunch of methods in order you can eventually get to the point where you can merge. So it's much slower, it's indirect, but it's necessary because some people cannot directly merge. So that being the case, what you're asking about, do I do Loi Gong? That's a Ming Dynasty term, but it's really all saying the same thing. Loi Gong, literally, Loi means internal or inner, and Gong means work or skill. So internal skill. But that's a very umbrella term. It can mean anything from power generation and martial art. It can mean sitting practices. It can also mean standing practices. So it's not specific, very umbrella term, and not precise. So I don't recommend that Ming Dynasty term for students, because for students, it is very important for them not to get confused. That way they can get the benefit they want, instead of wasting 10 years chasing the wrong stuff. So I hope I answered your question with the Loi Gong thing, right? The second thing you asked is San Gong. Okay, San in Chinese means the spirit, and Gong means work. To be extremely precise from a Taoist perspective, the three Dantian is the most important, or the three burner, or the three center, whatever you want to call it. You have one in the belly, two in the heart, three in the third eye and top of the head area. This one is really for your immune system and really for your physical health, or your physical burner, or your physical chi boost, or your physical energy. So that's the first stage of development, right? The second one is your heart. Mainly it deals with anxiety, depression, childhood memory, repressed memory, PTSD. The flip side of it, if you cultivate it, it'll open up and you'll start getting calmness, bliss, universal love, and just a feeling of really peaceful, overwhelming, indescribable emotional well-being, right? And then if you get to the head level, that's when the merging process happens that we talked about earlier. That's when death anxiety leaves you, discovering your true self, what the West will call awakening and enlightenment. but in China, we kind of laugh at that idea because it's outlined in the scriptures like the Neiyi, the oldest scripture of Taoism, or the Qi Gong, which is the scripture of clarity. If you read those scriptures, it says very clearly when you attain the Tao or when you merge into the Tao, nothing is attained. Because when the ice melts into the ocean, the first thing you'll realize is you're always water, whether you're the ice or the ocean. So you wake up from your illusion and your true nature is water, or the Qi, or the light, or whatever you want to call it, or emptiness, or Buddha nature. And when the first time you merge, you realize you're made of that. This table is made of that. This chair is made of that. Nothing is attained. You've always been that. You just didn't know. You just took off your blindfold. So there's no such thing as enlightenment in the sense of a noun. It's not a noun, it's a verb. It's something that you've always been. You just didn't know. It's kind of like someone with a pair of glasses running around asking people where's their glasses, but it's always in their head. So when students, maybe 1% of students will get there, and when they run up to you and go, hey, I was meditating last night, and I felt like all of a sudden, everything was the same light, the same energy, and all forms around me was transparent, including myself. And I realized I'm made of that, and I cry. And for the first time in my life, I realized everything's beautiful, and I've always been this. And then, usually that when the crying stops and a joy and a euphoric feeling stop, the first thing people do is laugh uncontrollably because you realize a cosmetic joke that you always been that. You train so damn hard to get there when you realize you always had it from the beginning. So, and this is written in the Zen scriptures over and over. It's there before you're born, it'll be there when you're alive, it'll be there after you're dead. Energy cannot be destroyed, it can only change shape, as it says in physics, right? So that basically sums up the whole qigong process. So when you get stuck on terms like sangong or spiritual work, it's really referring to this center and this center. In Chinese medicine, the spirit is housed in the heart. So these two centers would be considered spiritual work. Until you get to these two centers, if you're only working down here, it is nothing spiritual. You can literally, I mean, you can say nowadays people call what they're doing spiritual even when they're stretching, like in a yoga studio. But if you want to be precise about it, it's not your muscular system, it's not your tendon or fascia, it's not your lower burner. Spirituality happens in your spiritual center, which is here and here. So I hope I answer your question with the centers. Okay, next question. Oh, one more thing you said. Does your knowledge in Heaven Mountain also include Loidan or internal alchemy? No, because again, you want to go from ice merging into the ocean. The original Taoism of the Zhou dynasty dissolved directly. It's very similar to Tibet Dochen and Japanese Zen. Direct merging. You go from the ice, you merge into the ocean. That's Zhou dynasty, original Taoism. Later in history, in the Han dynasty Taoism, they realized people cannot do that. They can't directly merge. So they invented a way to systematically and progressively do this. You convert the Jing or the essence into the Qi, and then the next level, you convert the Qi into the spirit, and the next level, finally, you convert the spirit and merge. In other words, at the highest level, they finally allow people to merge. Whereas in original Taoism, you merge right away on day one. So, yeah. So, the original Taoism uses non-doing. No chasing, no method, no technique, no stages, no forcing. You completely relax and dissolve. That's not doing. The later Taoism of chasing things until you get to the top and finally merge uses a bit of forcing, a lot of willpower, a lot of learning, and it does a lot of doing. You're doing this, you're doing that. I'm focusing on this, I'm focusing on that. And it's not worse and it's not better. It's just for a different personality type. So it's based on doing. The Heaven Mountain tradition that I learned from Master Steve Smith, who learned it from Grandmaster Fokin, is based on non-doing. And because it is based on non-doing, it's directly working with the paradigm as a descendant of original Taoism, and therefore is not the later internal alchemy. although they have the same goal of merging. So I hope I answered that. All right, guys, please leave your message below. We're out of time. Please join me in our Qigong program on my website, adamchenlive.com. Everything I talked about, we'll work on it on that new website, on that new training program. Every week, we meet once a week with guided Qigong. It's in a live stream program. We also have a live Q&A session. For students that miss classes, don't worry. We have a student library. All the classes are recorded there. And we also have a supportive student learning forum. Hope to see you there. Check it out. Check out the link in the description below. See you next time.